Good morning, class. Today we're going to be working on a fun art project, and it's called All About Me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you about the project first, and then we're going to go through a demonstration so you know what you need to do. Okay? So what we're trying to focus on is I want you to think about yourself, some of the qualities that you feel make up your personality and who you are. So what we're going to start with is each of you is going to get a handout with your name on it. Okay? My first name is Rory. Can you see that? And that's how you spell Rory. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take each letter in our name and we're going to think of a word that starts with each letter. So for example, my first letter is R. So I would say an R word that describes me is responsible. Okay? Then we're going to go to the next letter, the next letter, the next letter, the next letter. Now, some of you have really long names, like for example, Benjamin in our class. You have quite a few letters and words to come up with. So if you need some help, don't be afraid to raise your hand, and we can all come up with some ideas of what words start with a certain letter. So just let us know if you need help. Okay, so watch the tutorial that's coming up after this, and then we're going to go through and start our project. And this will be really good and a fun way to kind of give something to your parents, to let them know how you feel about yourself and what you think makes up who you are. So stay tuned for the instructions. Okay, class, so we're going to get started on our little assignment here with our art project, all about ourselves. And what I want you to do is I want you to have some markers handy, okay? So remember we talked about in our introduction that we're going to take each letter of our name and we're going to think of a word that starts with that letter that describes who we are, okay? So in my example, I used R first and I said I am responsible. So we're going to take our marker and we're going to write the word responsible underneath the R. Okay, just like that. Okay, then we're going to take our next letter. So for me, my next letter is O. I'm going to say that I am organized. So here we go. We'll put O. Organized. Okay, now I have another R in my name, so I need another R word. And I think I'm going to put reliable. Oops. That's an R. Okay, my next letter is an I. That's a little bit of a difficult one, but I'm going to use independent. And so what that means is that I like to do things on my own. And when you're doing this, if you have a long word like this one is pretty long, you have to make sure you make your letters small enough so that it can fit on the page, okay? All right, my last letter is an E. So I'm going to say energetic because I am full of energy. All right, so my name is completed. I have my words that describe me, and the next part of this project is we're going to take the letters in our name and we're going to use some paint and we're going to fill in the letters of our name using some paint and some creative design and shapes. So stay tuned for that. That's coming up. Okay, class, so now we're going to get into the fun part of the assignment. What we want to do, because we're going to be working with paintbrushes and painting with watercolors, we want to prepare our surfaces by covering it with paper so that we don't mess up the desktop. So first we're all going to get our piece of paper. We're going to cover the top of the desk. And then we're going to get our materials ready. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our paints. So here is our watercolor paints. Then we're going to get a little cup of water so that we can wet our brush, and then we can also rinse it off so that we can use a different color. Okay, so now we're going to take our sheets with our name on it. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to grab our brush first. And what you want to do is you want to get the brush wet. So you're going to dip it in a cup of water. Okay, and then you're going to pick a color that you want to use to color in the letters. So, for example, mine, I have an R first. And I think for the R, I want to do blue. So I'm going to get my brush wet, and I'm going to dip it in this blue. I'm going to kind of swirl it around and make sure that I get it all on my brush. You want to saturate your brush with the paint so that when you apply it to your paper, you'll have color. Okay, so can you see that? That's nice and thick. Okay, so now we're going to take, and what I want to do is I'm going to use this to make stripes. So I'm going to paint a few stripes in my letter R, just like that. I don't really want to fill it in. I just want to make a little design with this. And so what we're doing here is we're practicing using paint brushes and paint to create design. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm going to rinse off my brush here in the water. Make sure all that blue is off. And then my next color I'm going to use for my O, I think I'm going to do yellow. Okay, so same thing. You wet your brush. And you make sure you got a lot of paint on there. Okay, now this time I'm going to try making little polka dots. So you're just going to take your brush and you're just going to dot it. Just take the tip of the brush and make little dots. Now the point of this exercise is we want you to be creative and use your paint brushes in all different kind of ways. So you want to make sure that every letter has a different kind of design in it, okay? And again, if you're doing this and you have a name with a lot of letters and you run out of ideas of how you're going to paint it differently from another letter, just raise your hand and we'll come up with some ideas of what we can do, okay? So there we go. There's my O with my polka dots. So we're going to rinse off the brush again. Make sure all that yellow is off. And now I have an R. And I think for my R I'm going to use some red. R for red. Now this time I think I'm going to do some straight lines. So we're going to take the brush and just very lightly with the tip we're going to come down and do some long stripes. And you feel free to do whatever kind of design you want in your own. This is just an example of some of the stuff that you can do. And you know what? That's kind of looking like my first R. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some crisscrosses in it. Just to kind of mix it up and make sure we have a different look to this one. So we'll put some lines going in the other way. Just so that this R looks different from my first R. All right. There we go. We're going to rinse off the brush. Now let's see, we have I, and I think for I we'll do some purple. So wet your brush, dip it in the paint, swirl it around, make sure you get a lot of paint on your paintbrush. And what you want to remember now, we want to keep the paint only on what we're painting. We're not painting our clothes, we're not painting our hands and our fingers. Just make sure that you practice good painting etiquette, okay? All right, so with the I think I'm going to do a little zigzag. There we go. We got some zigzags in those eyes. All right, and we are now on our last letter. Well, at least for my name. So for the E, I think we'll do some orange. Now I think I want to get a little crazy with this one, so I'm going to do lines as well as little polka dots. Okay, so I'm going to do a few little polka dots here by just tapping my brush, the tip of my brush, onto the paper. It makes a nice little circle. Okay, I think I need a little more paint on there. All right, now I think I'm going to draw some dashes. You can do whatever you want. Again, whatever you think is going to look good on this, that's your name. We'll just give this one a really different look from all the other ones. All right, try your best to stay within the lines. Okay, if you go out just a little bit, that's fine. It's not a problem. But we want to stay in the lines within our letters, okay? There we go. So that is my name, Rorie. And so I have my name nicely colored with different lines, different patterns, different colors. And then we have words that describe our personalities. So for me, responsible, organized, reliable, independent, and energetic. Okay, class, so we watched the video of what we're supposed to do, all our instructions. And so I just want to go over it one more time to make sure it's fresh in your mind what we need to do, okay? There's two parts to this exercise. The first part is that we're taking each letter in our name and we're going to associate a word with each letter. So in my example, my first letter in my name is R, and I think I am a responsible person. So that's what I'm going to put for my first letter. So that's what we're going to do. That's the first part. Okay, second part is painting with brushes. That's the fun part where you get to be creative and make something really pretty and that we can show our moms and dads, okay? So, things to remember. Each letter in your name, we want to have a different color and we want to have a different pattern, okay? So make sure every letter looks different. And remember, if you have a really long name and you can't think of anything, another pattern to come up with, just let me know, raise your hand, and I'll come over and maybe give you some ideas that'll help you, okay? Okay, second part is we're going to practice good etiquette, okay? That means we're not painting our hands, our clothes, our desk. We're just keeping the paint on our assignment, which is painting our name, okay? So let's get started, and I'm sure you're going to create some wonderful works of art, and your parents are going to love it.